This podcast is a 98 Studios production.
Today's the day, baby.
Today's the day.
Today's the day.
Today's the motherfucking day.
Today is the day.
Today's the day.
Today is the day.
Today's the day.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to Today's the Day with Zach Anderson. For today's solo cast, it's going to be more of a story time, and I want to tell you guys a story and a lesson that I pulled from this story that I've carried through every single year since this thing happening. And I didn't even have the understanding of the lesson until years later. But I want to paint a picture for you guys. So imagine this. It's my second year in door-to-door sales. I've decided that I'm going to go hit a number. I'm going to go hit 175 alarms sold and installed. And for whatever reason, I don't even know why I decided that number, because the year prior I did 26. So any amount of growth from 26 would have been amazing. 100, 150 would have been amazing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm out in Little Rock, Arkansas, and it's middle of August, and I'm anywhere between 130 and 140 accounts at this point. And my whole team in Little Rock, Arkansas decides to go home, or they finish their summer, whatever, but I hadn't hit my number. And I'm like, okay, I am going to hit my number. What should I do? So I reach out to my regional. I let them know, hey, I'm not at my number yet. What should I do? He's like, oh, hey, there's a squad up in Bentonville. They're all moving to Bentonville to go finish the next 2 weeks of August and then 4 weeks of extension if needs be. I'm like, okay, bet. I don't care what timeline it takes. I'm hitting my number. I was unconditionally committed to this number. And so I pack up, I drive up to Bentonville. There's supposed to be 6 or 7 sales reps staying in this Airbnb and then a few technicians. And I get to this Airbnb and no one's there, right? So I'm like, okay, no big deal. Like, they're just running late. So it's getting late. The technicians show up. They're downstairs. There's 3 of them ready to support this 6 to 10 reps that were supposed to be coming. And no one shows up that night. So I'm like, oh, they must just come in the next day. No big deal. So I wake up the next morning. I make my breakfast. I do my morning. Then I go out to work. I'm out working. And I'm having a tough time. It's okay. I'm just in the zone. It's all good. I'm in the zone. Nothing too crazy's happened yet. And I'm working, and I get home and I'm like, what in the world? No one's here. So I call the other manager that was supposed to be the manager running it, because I was not a leader at this point. I was supposed to just be a rep in an office. And most reps, when there's no office, aren't really disciplined to go work and produce. And it's not really beneficial for them to just be somewhere alone. And long story short, he's like, yeah, dude, like, we decided not to, but the Airbnb's open. Like, you can stay there and keep working. And that was the first, like, kick in the balls. I was like, what the crap? Like, I'm out here with no leadership, no help, no area advice, nothing. And I've got 3 technicians that are wanting me to keep them a busy schedule. And over the next couple of weeks, it turned into like this, like, negative where the techs were frustrated because there wasn't enough work for them. And I was doing my best. They were obviously really cool with me because I was the only one giving them work. And I was trying to put on for them. And I was just trying to get to this 175 number. And I remember, clear as day, I had a really, really good week. I found this little pocket. For those of you guys that sell alarms, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. This brand new development street with this contracted local dealer. And I see all the signs. I'm like, oh, this is it. We could do contract buyouts. It was plenty to get them out of their contract. It was such a good situation. And I went that week and I sold 12. And I was 2 away. I was at 173. Right? I sold 12 that week. And I'm telling you guys, I never in my life have wanted to go home or be done with something more. And it was so, like, redundant. And I had been alone for this, I think it was 3 weeks at this point. I've been completely alone. And I just had a good week. For me, that year, 12 was a good week. And my routine was like, I was not, I don't know if depressed is the right word, but I was so mundane in my actions. I was going out at 9 a.m. because I didn't want to do anything else. I didn't want to go to the gym. I didn't want to prolong my time in Bentonville any longer than I had to, because I was lonely. I missed home. I had been gone for a substantial amount of time, and no one understood why I was out there. Everyone was like, dude, you're at 160 accounts. You did 26 last year. Come home. And it was like it was a decision within myself that I decided I was going to go do. But everything seemed to be going wrong. No one showed up from the sales team. Finally, I have this good week and I sell 12. And I go home and I literally was taking a bubble bath every night and eating candy, and then I would just go to bed. And I was like, thank goodness I did 12. And I woke up Sunday morning. For those of you guys who have worked for Vivint, I got a text from that 741 number. And what that means is it's a number that texts your phone when a customer calls into the cancellation line. And I not only woke up to one text, I woke up to 11 texts letting me know that 11 of my 12 customers the day before had canceled. So I went from being 2 accounts away from going home to being 13 accounts away from going home. And it may as well have been 200 accounts away from going home. And I got those texts and I thought it was a glitch and my heart dropped and I got sick. And I literally was sick to my stomach. And on a Sunday, I drove out of this neighborhood and I was panicked. I was like, dude, there's no way. By the time I got to the neighborhood, all the Vivint signs were out of the yards and I was thoroughly confused. I was like, what is going on? There's no more of these signs that I had sold. So I start knocking the doors. No one's answering the doors. And I'm in this neighborhood for 2 hours, knocking the doors, waiting for someone to come home so I can just ask them what the hell's going on. Finally, after I'd knocked like 4 times, the 5th time knocking this door, this really sweet customer that I loved working with answers the door. It's this young single mom. And she was like scared. And I was like, what's going on? Like, I don't remember her name. We'll call her Allie. I'm like, Allie, what's going on? Like, we had a really good interaction. I know you really wanted this system. You were so stoked after install. I followed up with you. And she's like, yeah, like the guy who we were with before, the local dealer came by and like told us there was a scam going on and you were part of the scam and you were running a total scam. And she said the word scam 3 times. I remember because every time she said it, my heart dropped. And I was like, no way. Because you don't come back from that. Like building trust is already very hard when you're a stranger, obviously. To now go and have this preconceived notion that it's a scam. They've already canceled. This guy went and yeah, neither here nor there for him. I've got my opinions about how that was. He was a full-grown adult. He's in his 30s. But I was heartbroken. And 11 of my 12 canceled. The 12th, I actually never got a hold of again. They stayed a happy customer, stayed paying. And maybe they were just so busy, he never got a hold of them either. But I literally remember I went home that Sunday. I didn't knock any doors to sell anything. I went home that Sunday. I just cried for like 2.5 hours. I just cried in this Airbnb. And I was just like, I remember just sitting there thinking, why? Like, why is this happening right now when I've done everything right? Like, I've gone out of my way for customer satisfaction. I've outworked everybody. I stayed out longer than everybody. Like, I have this funny thing where I believe in the sales gods, where it's like, I was just asking the sales gods, like, why go give me this massive amount of challenge right now when I'm barely hanging on by a thread. And I know you can see that. Like, I want to quit every day. My bag's been prematurely packed for 2 weeks now. And now you just set me back significantly. And now I've got to go do 13 more accounts. And I just remember like sitting there not understanding it, but I was not willing to negotiate my goal of 175. And that's probably why it was so hard for me, because it wasn't frustrating. It was heartbreaking. And it was heartbreaking because I knew I wasn't going home. I knew I wasn't quitting. I just knew that meant I was out there for a couple more weeks. But I remember I ponied up, I geared up. Monday I went out, I was out on the doors by 9 or 10. I had a pretty good week that week. I think I did 8 or whatever it was that week. So I had to go and do 5 more. And like my anxiety was through the roof. I wanted to go home. I sold those that Monday I remember that Monday I sold 3. And I had to do 5 more before going home. And then Tuesday I sold 2 by like 2 p.m., 2 or 3 p.m. And selling that 175th account, like, was by far the greatest feeling I've ever felt, even though I've done way bigger things and way better things. And I never went back to even doing close to 175 again. I grew substantially year over year from that every year that I was knocking. And it felt so good. I drove straight home, 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. I threw my bag in my Subaru Outback. I took my knocking polo off and I started driving shirtless home. I had a cooler with 5 Bang energy drinks and I was just wired. I just wanted to get home. And that drive home was one of the most spiritual experiences I have ever had in my life. Driving home with that feeling of absolute accomplishment, that I did what I said I was going to do, not because anyone else was pushing me to do it, but because I said I was going to do it to myself. And my self-confidence, that moment is where I got all of my self-confidence. And I remember I cried for like 4 hours straight on this drive through Colorado, through the mountains, probably because I was delirious and tired and hadn't slept, because I was driving from Bentonville, Arkansas to Utah. And I was bawling. It was the greatest thing ever. And a couple years later, I read this entry in this book that just made so much sense. And I go back and I attach it to my memories of this year and this finish of this year specifically. And I couldn't be more grateful for it. And now I have an understanding of it. I want to read you guys my favorite sections from this, speak on it a little bit, and then we'll call it good. It says this. It says, champions know adversity is the catalyst of mental toughness. If it weren't for the dark days, we wouldn't know what it is to walk in the light. And that's an Earl Campbell quote. I'll keep reading. Champions believe if you remove the adversity, you remove the victory. As a result, they tend to view adversity as a challenge through which learning and growing occurs. They understand that stress and struggle are the key factors in becoming mentally tough. Adversity to world-class performers is their mental training ground. It's how they become mentally tough. And I read that. I remember reading it and immediately going back to that moment because I always ask myself, why was that drive home so fulfilling? Why did I feel so good? Why did I cry so much? And it's because it was the most adversity I had ever faced in my life, and I overcame it. And mental toughness just means being able to control your emotions and your mental and your subconscious mind. And learning that will literally go and separate you from anybody in your life, not just in your goals to go achieve financially, but in your family life, in your home life, in your marriage, in your relationships, in your friendships. If you're mentally tough and you can control your emotions and you can get through adversity and you can really appreciate when things are going good because you've experienced it when they're not, you are going to be a massive deposit in everyone's life around you. And that's one of the most powerful stories I have from my life, even though it probably doesn't seem like that. And if you're not in the industry, it's going to be hard to wrap your head around how that could be so impactful to me. But this is a very good way of putting into words why it was so impactful. It's because it was the most adversity I'd ever faced. So if you're in a moment of adversity and you're trying to get through adversity, or you're wondering if it's worth it to push through the adversity to do what you said you're going to do, I'm telling you, that is where you go and find mental strength. That is where you go find emotional maturity and wisdom. And that is where you go learn the lessons that pay you for the rest of your life. So I challenge you to leave it all out there, give everything you've got, and get through whatever the adversity is, and it'll pay you forever. So you guys, thank you for listening to my story. I love you guys as always. And until next time, much love.